Good afternoon, everyone. It is our March Early Childhood State Advisory Council meeting. My name is Morgan Crossman. I'm the Executive Director of Building Bright Futures, and we're really excited to be with you today. It's a big meeting around SAC membership and the role of the board. So in today's meeting, especially at the beginning when we are doing some appreciations and calling for votes, I'd love to have our State Advisory Council members make sure that your cameras are on. For the rest of you that are joining, we'll invite you to turn your cameras on a little bit later in the meeting, but please everyone do introductions in the chat and I'll do a brief overview of what we're going to cover during today's meeting. So we'll do our traditional roll call and a vote on our minutes. We do have elections and recognizing contributions of several board members. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the role of the organization in advising the governor and the legislature on children and families in the state. You're also going to hear from Tanya and others about family experiences and how we are really using family experience to support building strong early childhood policy. And then we're going to end today's session again, doing some level setting with new members of the board around the role, how we think about building alignment, what collaboration around the strategic plan means, and really thinking about the role and the work for the year ahead. So I'm going to ask my team to pull down the screen share for just a minute because I do want to start before we go into general council business, and I'll turn it over to our co-chairs. But I do want to start just by recognizing two of our longstanding incredible champions for kids and families who have served on the board, both Flor, who is our current co-chair, and Christy Swenson. And I don't know if I see Christy in the room yet. Not quite yet. So I'm going to start with Flor. But just wanting to take a couple of minutes to honor the two of their contributions to this board. And Flor has been such an incredible champion for education and bringing the perspective of public education, the School Boards Association, and kids and families. And when I think about the role that she has played as a thought partner in providing this steady, trusted leadership as both, a board member and then the treasurer of our board, and now the co-chair, I've felt so proud and honored to be a part of this leadership team and helping think about and guide strategic direction and think about what's best for the organization. I think that, when I think about the work that Flora does, she is always bringing this very deep value of education to the council and consistently ensuring that we are thinking about the alignment between, what is happening for early childhood education and systems and K-12 priorities, and really thinking about how we really ground ourselves in the voice of our youngest and most vulnerable kids and families. I think that one of the things that I have personally really appreciated about Flor is her ability and not even just ability, her confidence in helping us move into a brave space as a state advisory council and being able to say and do hard things and to do it from a place of being thoughtful and compassionate to each other and as colleagues. So just wanting to say thank you for being this very fierce and consistent champion for kids, for families, for education priorities, and helping us push our systems and push ourselves as a board and us as leaders and an executive board to make sure that we really have systems that are equitable and responsive and really based on outcomes for kids and families. So just thanking you so much for your contributions in that space. And before I move to Christy, I want to make sure she's in the room and I can't tell. So I need Beth or someone else to tell me. I don't see her yet.
I do not see her. I would
so
proceed. We're capturing your word.
Okay. I will still do a thank you for her. But one of the amazing things about having Christy and Flor come into this board is strengthening our understanding as a council of different pieces of the system, right? We knew we needed additional education representatives. We knew we didn't just need, and we do need the Head Start Collaboration Office Director, but we also needed Head Start voice in this space. And Christy brings such a deep knowledge and understanding of the broader early childhood system, especially the critical role of Head Start and thinking about what it means to actually support our youngest and most vulnerable kids and families. And, I think that it's been so important important to have multiple voices in the space, getting us to think in that way and to think about the systems building and how we strengthen connections across programs that might not just be funded at the state level, right? Head Start has a really prescriptive role and receives funding in different ways. And it's our responsibility to think about that coordination. And she has just been such a phenomenal thought partner in sitting in that space with us, helping really think about what the narrative and what Head Start is and how we communicate it to the rest of the state, making sure that it's reflected in our policy priorities, in the strategic plan for kids and families, and ultimately helping us bridge systems. So really appreciating her grounded expertise and what she's brought both to the full council, but then also to the executive board and thinking about what we as an organization need to do, how we show up as leaders in this space. So just wanting to extend my deepest gratitude to Christy. I will say one of the first programs that I visited in the state of Vermont was Christy's program in Head Start. And it was such a powerful space for me to start my understanding of the system of service and what Head Start really means and who it's serving. So just wanting to thank her for being such a strong advocate in this space, for being the lead voice on Head Start for the state, and helping support us in, helping our legislators understand the needs of kids and families in that space. So thank you, thank you. And lastly, I want to thank both of you for your leadership on thinking about what it means to be a strong executive board member. Not everybody on our board has sat in that space. It is the place where we are debating the hardest pieces of this role, how we move and function, what the organization needs to be, how we are moving our own strategy. We're using their expertise and their leadership to help us ground those conversations in what we need to do as an organization to support this broader system. And what that's meant is a stronger executive board, a stronger organizational plan and budgeting, and hearing really hard questions and, having them ask hard questions of us about what our values are and what we want to prioritize as a board. And so we're just so grateful to have had them in that space with us. And the other really big piece I want to thank both of them for is the role that they have played in shaping the next 5-year vision and strategic plan, because they have brought such tremendous value into our understanding of how these systems work and move together and how to make sure that we're not forgetting a piece and how to do it well in partnership. And their leadership, both of the way that they show up in spaces one-on-one, but also in this collective, is in both this confident, quiet leadership. And I feel like both of them have modeled for us when it's really important to step up and take space, and when it's important to create space and build a strong culture as a board. So really appreciate your reminders of creating that brave space as a board and coming to it with such intention and integrity. Thank you. Before we move into, formal business, I did want to give Flora or Christy a moment to say any words that you would like, and no pressure to do that, but just wanted to give you some space to be able to say anything you'd like to the board.
Sure. Thank you, Morgan. Now that you made me all teary, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to miss you guys. So I also wanted to, extend my thanks to all of you. Really, my heartfelt thanks to the State Advisory Council. It's been really a privilege to be part of this organization for the past 6 years, especially thinking about where we were in the pandemic to where we are now in that brave space that you were talking about. I remember deeply those conversations, and I'm so proud of that. And not just proud of the work that we have done together, because I don't feel like it's ever one person, but it's like all of us coming together into that brave, thoughtful, and it's it's almost like a creative space where we are all able to really sit together and hold space for each other. And I think we have grown so much in our state. In my mind, our state is so lucky to have so many leaders. As I look around this room and all the people that I have learned from and seen come through the State Advisory Council, it takes small acts of kindness and small acts of courage every day that you guys all make on behalf of children. And I'm so proud to have been a small part of that. And I've always believed that, leadership is calls for both the, I don't know, humility and courage. And I hope that I have lived up to those values during my time with you. And I wish you all the very best. I'm not going very far away. I'm excited for Debbie to join you. I'm excited for the new leadership. And I'm going to really, truly miss this work, but I'll do my best to stay connected and stay connected, please. And I will continue to cheer you all, cheer you, not cherry, cheer you on from from afar. But I really, truly mean it when I said I love you, and you know that I do. And thank you for continuing to champion children and families. There's nothing more important in my mind than the work that we do. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you so much, Flor. I'm going to let Flor have just a minute to reset because she also has to do roll call next. So I'm just extending a moment of invitation, especially to other members of our executive board. You all know what it means to serve in these roles. And if there's anything you'd like to share with Flor, you have 2 minutes. And Christy, welcome. I promise I will call you after and tell you exactly what I said about you because you weren't here, but I could do it again. Elisa and Erica.
I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand and I was unsuccessful. So, Flor, it has just been such a pleasure serving with you as co-chair of this work for the last however long we've been doing it. It's been I knew about you because we live in the same community, but we'd never really met. And so now I feel so connected to you and so happy to run into you in Bohemian Bakery or wherever that is downtown. But your brand of advocacy and passion is really beautiful to watch. And it's been a real learning opportunity for me to watch your leadership and partner with you in that work. And I've just enjoyed getting to know you so well. And so thank you for all the work that you've done on behalf of BBF and on behalf of kids and families. And I know our paths will continue to cross. So thank you so much.
Can I jump?
Yeah, please go ahead, Erica.
I would say ditto to that. And I would just say that you are an inspiration in terms of your advocacy. I so have appreciated your global perspective because of your lifetime experience in many places and your tenaciousness in terms of keeping children at the forefront and thinking about all children and the benefits that they have for our greater community. And so I just appreciate you being a role model for me and an amazing advocate for students.
Thank you, Erica. Because Christy is on, I do have to just say a couple more words again. I'm so sorry, but I want her to hear just a little bit and would also extend the offer for folks to be able to speak on Christy's behalf. But Christy, I just wanted to say personally, thank you. I mentioned to the board a couple of minutes ago that your program was one of the first that I visited in the state of Vermont when I came back home that really grounded me in the work in a meaningful way and what we are really truly fighting for kids and families and how we think about the most vulnerable kids and families. And it's been such an honor to learn from you about this system and to be brought into so many different spaces with the Head Start directors to think critically about how we talk about the work. How do we help the state understand what Head Start is? How do we help champion this work so that it doesn't feel like we are fighting for separate different things, but how we're really thinking about Head Start as this integrated piece of the system. And I have learned so much from you and from Renee in that space. And so just wanted to say thank you so much for your leadership in this area and the way that you've not just shown up on our board in this role as, part of the executive board, but the way that you're also showing up in other spaces to champion work for kids and families, whether it's VICC or it's, thinking about the pre-kindergarten implementation education committee. I know that I did that backwards, but the number of spaces that this board and especially some of our executive leadership have shown up in other spaces to represent kids and families has been really, really amazing to watch. So thank you. Everyone can stop crying. You can wipe your eyes now. But we just wanted to, this is always a hard meeting. And sometimes I think we should have done it in person so that we can hug and everybody can, take a deep breath. But it really is, it's really hard when leadership transitions off of this board because we have built such strong relationships and we want to maintain them. We want to maintain those pieces and connections to the system, but also the relationships that we have personally and where we've built some really strong bridges. So, please do not go far because we absolutely will continue to bring your expertise into the space and we want you to be a part of this network, even if you're not a formal part of the board. So thank you. Thank you. All right, before I turn it over to Floor, any last minute comments? Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Floor, if you want to start with roll call.
Thank you, Morgan. Good afternoon, everybody. You'll know already, my name is Flor Diaz-Smith, Vermont School Boards Association, and this is my last meeting with you guys as your co-chair. We will start with our public partners, and I believe we're going to put the order on the chat. So, my dear co-chair Elisa, do you want to?
Hi, everyone. I'm Elisa Stolberg. I'm the Director for Family and Child Health at the Health Department.
Thank you, Lisa. Janet McLaughlin, I know that she was running a few minutes late from DCF, Child Development Division. Are you here, Janet? I don't see her yet. Okay. Laurel from the Department of Mental Health. I don't see her. Pat Fitzsimmons from the Agency of Education. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Susanna Davis, as Office of Racial Equity. I haven't seen Susanna. Okay. Renee Kelly, I see you. Head Start. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Gosh, I'm like, is there another meeting I'm supposed to be at? All my state colleagues are dropping like flies. Hi, everyone. Renee Kelly, Vermont Head Start Collaboration Office within Child Development Division.
Thank you, Renee. Susanna Coburn from AHS Secretary's Office.
Hi, everyone. Apologize, my internet will fail with the camera, but I'm Susan Coburn. I am with the Agency of Human Services and Medicaid Policy.
Thank you, Susan. Jessica from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. I don't know, I think that maybe you're right, Renee, there was another meeting. Lindsay Barron, Representative Family and Services at DCF and non-voting member.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Lindsay Barron. I'm the Director of Policy and Planning within the Family Services Division of DCF.
Thank you. Let's see. Monica Hutt, representative from the Governor's Office and non-voting member. I haven't seen her either. Okay, I'm going to move into our legislative representatives. I have seen Representative Ray Garofano, please.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone. I'm Ray Garofano. I represent Chittenden 23, which is Essex and Essex Junction, and I vice chair the House Human Services Committee.
Thank you. Welcome. Senator Martine. So I know you're here. There you are. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Senator Martine LaRocque-Ulick, Chittenden Central District. I represent Burlington, Winooski, Essex Junction, some of Essex Town, and a little sliver of Colchester. Good to see you.
Thank you, Martine. Becca Webb, do you introduce yourself, Becca?
Hey, everybody. I'm Becca Webb. I'm a Universal Pre-K coordinator.
Christy.
I'm Christy Swenson. I am the director of Capstone Head Start, serving Lamoille, Washington, and Orange counties, and I'm the co-chair of the Vermont Head Start Association.
Thank you, Christy. I'm going to miss you too. Danielle Mitchell, Washington County Mental Health.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Mitchell. I'm the children's director out of Washington County Mental Health.
Carol, I see you. Want to introduce yourself, Carol?
Hi, everyone. Carol Lang-Godden. I'm the executive director at Lamoille Family Center, and I'm here representing the Vermont Parent-Child Center Network.
Thank you, Carol. Laura Young, parent representative. I saw you before. There you are.
Hey, this is Laura Young. It's wonderful to see everyone again. I am the parent representative, and I live in Caledonia County with my 2 children.
And then Amber, also parent representative. I haven't seen Amber, but maybe she's not in camera. Oh, there you are, Amber. I see
I'm
you.
here.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'm Amber Houston. I'm here as a parent representative and I live in Windsor County.
Welcome, Amber. Erica.
Erica McLaughlin from the Vermont Principals Association.
Thank you, Erica. Kiona.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kiona Heath, adjusting to a new position and title at the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence.
Welcome, Kiona, and congratulations. Dimitri?
Hey, everybody. Dimitri Garter. I'm the business rep on the State Advisory Council.
Eddie Gale?
Yeah. Hi, Eddie Gale. I work with the A.D. Henderson Foundation.
Sharon Harrington?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sharon Harrington with the Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children. And I'm just going to share my apologies. I have to hop off a few minutes early today.
Thank you for letting us know, Sharon. Welcome. And I did see you, Dr. Deb Hartswick. Nice.
Hi, Deb Hartswick, representing the medical role on the State Advisory Council. And I apologize, I'm on my phone, so if I end up losing connection.
And Flora, just noticing that Laurel is here now if she wants to do an introduction as well.
Laurel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, sorry I'm late. Laurel Omland, Director of the Child, Adolescent and Family Unit at the Department of Mental Health.
No worries, welcome. Okay, and I'm going to move us right into our minutes. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read our minutes of February 23rd. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes, and then we can have discussion if there's any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second?
I can second them, Miss Becca.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any noes? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay, so I think Deb's, there were 3 abstentions. I see Sharon and Dimitri, and there's somebody else that was breaking up.
Sorry,
Deb,
that's Deb.
Yeah, okay. All right, we have 3 abstentions. All right, with that, I'm giving it back to you, Beth and Morgan.
Go ahead, Beth.
Thank you, Flor. Good afternoon. My name is Beth Truzansky. I'm the Deputy Director here at Building Bright Futures, and I'm excited to bring forward 2 new nominations for membership. So we are I'm just going to give you a little bit of background of, we're going to take 2 votes, one for the slate of members. We have 2 new members and 1 member for reappointment, and then we will bring a vote for our executive committee officers. Thanks, Michelle, for bringing that up. And folks should feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions. So as folks may be aware, the State Advisory Council is has 23 voting members and several non-voting members, as we have tried to diversify the voices that we're hearing from and representation. And we really try and have a representation from across sectors, from both professionals, families, legislators, all folks who kind of are invested in kids and families. So again, thank you for all who are serving. And as Morgan said, just deep gratitude for Christy and Flor, who are stepping off, finishing their 2nd term. On the State Advisory Council, the terms are 3 years and members can serve for up to 2 consecutive terms. So today, and then in terms of process, the executive committee works closely with BBF team to be able to identify nominees. They are brought to the executive committee, which also serves as our nominating committee. So the executive committee has reviewed and voted in favor of this slate, and now we bring it to the full State Advisory Council for approval. And then if for the at-large members, there's a process to go through. We're completing paperwork for the official governor appointment from the governor's office. So today we are bringing forward a slate of three members to the State Advisory Council. Carol Langodden, who as just introduced herself, serves on behalf of the Parent-Child Center Network. We are bringing Carol's nomination for reappointment for a second 3-year term ending March 2029. I will also note that we are thrilled that Carol is also coming forward to step into the role as the private co-chair of the council. So we will talk a little bit more about that after the membership vote, but we need to reappoint her first, and then we can appoint her to the executive committee. So excited about that. Then the two new members that we have, Deborah or Debbie Singizer is stepping into the role on the State Advisory Council representing a school board member. And this is in our statute. We have specific, not all roles are identified very specifically, but one of them is that we need a school board member. And Debbie has agreed to step into the role as Floor steps out. So thank you, Floor, for being able to kind of help with this transition and identify and help orient Debbie. Debbie is being nominated for a 3-year term, again, ending March 2029. She has been a school board chair for over 6 years. Leading governance and process at Barstow Unified Union School District, and serving on the Rutland North Supervisory Union Board. She's also employed by the Vermont School Boards Association as the Director of Board Services. Fascinating history as an educator and doing international development all across the world with a particular focus on women and girls. So thrilled to have Debbie joining the board. She's not able to be present here, but she's very much looking forward to coming onto the State Advisory Council. The next person that is coming forward for nomination is Nancy Powers. Nancy's here. It's great to see you, Nancy. Nancy works for the Northeast Kingdom Community Action, and she is coming onto the board, filling the seat vacated by Christy Swenson, representing Head Start. Though Nancy wears many hats. And so she is the Director of Early Childhood Education and Family Services at NECA with over 20 years of experience in education. And so she really comes to the SAC with a lot of experience in education and social services, Head Start, obviously, Children's Integrated Services, Parent-Child Center Network. So I think we will really appreciate Nancy's perspective with how services are being delivered to children and families, particularly in the Northeast Kingdom. So that's the slate of the 3 nominees. I will pause to see if there's any questions before I hand it to Elisa for the vote.
Okay, I'm going to assume that means there's no questions and we'll move forward. Okay, so we are going to vote on the slate of candidates for at-large SAC membership. The voting language is as follows. The Building Bright Futures State Advisory Council, at the recommendation of the Executive Committee, moves to elect the following at-large members to the Advisory Council. Debbie Singizer from the Vermont School Board Association for a 3-year term ending March 2029. Nancy Powers from the Northeast Kingdom Community Action as the Head Start rep with a 3-year term ending also March 2029. That's a very big number to say, and Caroline Godden from the PCC network, reappointed for a second 3-year term, also ending March 2029. So I'm looking for a motion to elect the slate of at-large members to the advisory council.
So moved by Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. And a second?
I'll second. Ray Garofano.
Thank you. And is there any discussion?
Only that I appreciate all the due diligence you put into this and coming up with a great slate.
Yeah, it's a great slate of candidates. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, all in favor? Please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carol, I'm assuming you're abstaining from your own vote. Thank you.
Yes, it feels like the right thing to do.
Awesome. Okay, well, it appears that that the motion has passed and all three are invited to join the board. So thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Elisa. Let me just, yes, we are very excited and we'll be able to share a slide of the composition of the new board in just a little bit. So thank you. Okay, for our next piece of business is the executive committee. So Building Bright Futures is a nonprofit, though we have a legislative charge. We lean on our executive committee heavily to help with business of the organization, given the kind of political nature of the full council. The executive committee, there are 5 seats composed of the co-chairs, secretary, treasurer, and then 1 additional member without a specific role. So the executive committee really serves as a leadership team advising BBF's executive director and deputy director, supporting nonprofit governance, strategic guidance for the State Advisory Council, et cetera. So we really appreciate this group that comes together once a month. So we are bringing forward this slate for the executive committee. Elisa is, we do not need to revote. Elisa's finishing her second 2-year term. So, and then we're nominating Carol to join in the role of private co-chair and has agreed to serve as interim treasurer. Laura Young is nominated to join the executive committee in the role of secretary. Janet McLaughlin is getting nominated for a second 2-year term. And Renee serves as ex officio as our grant manager with Child Development Division. So I will pause there and see if there are any questions before handing it back to you, Elisa.
Okay, well, let's move forward. So now we'd like to present the nominations for the BBF Executive Committee. As Beth described, the Executive Committee serves as the leadership team advising the BBF Executive Director and Deputy Director, Nonprofit Governance and Strategic Guidance for the SAC. The Executive Committee has 6 seats, and at this time, we are presenting the following nominations on behalf of the Executive Director. The nomination of Janet McLaughlin to serve a second 2-year term on the Executive Committee ending March 31st, 2028. Nomination of Laura Young to serve a 2-year term ending 2028 as Secretary. The nomination of Caroline Godden to serve a 2-year term ending 2028 as Private Co-Chair and Interim Treasurer. These members will join myself as the public co-chair through 2027 and Renee Kelly as ex officio. Okay, looking for someone to make a motion for the BBF State Advisory Council at the recommendation of the Executive Committee to elect the following slate of officers to the executive committee.
So moved, Ray Garofano.
Thank you. And it looks like Dimitri, you're seconding.
Yes.
And so any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And anyone abstaining? Thank you, Carol. Great. Looks like the motion passed. So thank you all. And it's a great team. I'm looking forward to working with you all. Thank you so much.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you all. We appreciate that. So, I love all the hearts. As we welcome in new board members, we often take some time at our March State Advisory Council meeting, which also happens to serve as our annual meeting, to be able to really kind of reflect and focus on our values and our like the strategic goals of the State Advisory Council, and to really invite us to think about and connect with each other about what is the role, what's the role that each of you plays as an FAC member, what are we asking you to bring or to bring back to the groups that you are representing. And so to start, we've asked Tanya LaChapelle, who's our family leadership manager, and two of our excellent family leaders to be able to kind of talk a little bit about how we center families in policy and practice. And then we'll move into the thinking about kind of just refreshing what is the role of BBF and the SAC and the discussion as we move through the meeting.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya. I'm the Family Leadership Manager. And as Beth said, we're just going to give a little bit of a broad overview of our vision for working with families, what we're doing, and certainly try to give some really good examples of how that is showing up in our work and in our network. One of the things in today's meeting materials that Beth sent out is a 2-page document that's called Centering Families in Policy and Practice. I use that as my reference point for what I'm going to share with you today. And I have to give it a shout out. That document was created by Titi, who was our 2025 policy intern. And to get to that document, that summarized 2-page document, was a lengthy process. Titi was joining Families and Communities Committee meetings. She was studying the Building Bright Futures Equity Guide and the strategic plan. She did some studying of resources from the National Center for Family and Parent Leadership. You know, she looked at a lot of examples of what we're doing, where we're doing it, and how we're doing it. Some of you know that Titi also wrote several blog articles where she was really diving into sort of the why and how of not only our family leadership work, but how that was relating to policy and data work. So that's in your materials to review. And really what's at the heart of it, right, is this vision that effective public policy solutions must be informed by the knowledge of those most impacted and grounded in local context. And to be able to do that at Building Bright Futures, we feel we need to empower families, elevate their voices, and reduce barriers to them participating. So we have some key strategies. So Michelle, if you'll move to the next slide. These are some of those key strategies that we're using to advance that vision. And I think it's really, I was just thinking it's really lovely to be at this meeting today and listening to all of you support each other And hearing that idea of community and relationship building is right. It's not just present in our family leadership work. Really, we're working for it to be present throughout what we do, creating these spaces that are welcoming, right? Spaces that feel safe and where you feel that you can share and bring yourself to those spaces. And our family spaces, those are also spaces that are going to welcome children. They're going to welcome family life. That building of relationships and fostering personal connections is really prioritized and valued. And to create those spaces, right, that clear communication and supporting engagement and really thinking about our meeting design, right? When we put out communications, we want to make sure that everything you need to expect before, after, during meetings, events, gatherings is really clearly put out there in really accessible ways to support engagement for family leaders. We have a compensation system. We have childcare stipends, mileage reimbursements, sometimes food and in-person meetings. Sometimes it means giving a gift card when someone cannot accept compensation in other formats. And also having some dedicated staff, my role, so that there is someone there who can be responsive and timely and consistent has been really important to that too. When we get into meeting design and meeting facilitation, some things that show up in our family spaces to break down some of those barriers is breaking down acronyms, right? It's slowing the pace down, right? We need to allow time for people to think and to absorb and to reflect. And also, it could be offering materials in a variety of formats, thinking about how materials are going to interact if someone's joining by phone or is able to join by video. And this idea of shared informed decision making, that's that really thinking about how can we share power with parent representatives, right? And in sharing power, right, we're hoping to sort of induce that shared decision making. And in some ways, there are places where maybe we can't do that, right? But we're always committed to thinking about how can we incorporate voices of families with lived experience in as many ways as possible, excuse me. And finally, maintaining a dedicated space. And here at BBF, that's the Families and Communities Committee. So Michelle, if you'll go to the next, the Families and Communities Committee, it's the hub of family leadership here at BBF, right? It really serves as that key accountability body, right? They guide us in the use of all of those strategies. They guide us in making sure that spaces are welcoming, that there's accessibility in all that we do. And they're really key in giving that advisement. It's a space that's led by parent co-chairs. They plan, they facilitate, they support their peers, they set the welcoming tone. They're really two very strong, dedicated leaders who have been assets not only to this community and their peers, but lots of other projects and initiatives at Building Bright Futures. The committee holds the infrastructure for things like the compensation and support of family leadership. They have also, in been able to participate in things like yearly policy recommendation development, conducting family needs assessments to collect data on family experience and well-being so that there are those pathways to sharing those concerns and gaps and barriers. I already mentioned like the peer connections and the community building. Some ways that they do that, there are 2 meetings per month. One is more of the formal meeting with agendas and topics, and the other is completely dedicated to that connection and support. The group has built a Facebook group They've done some in-person social gatherings, resource sharing, that connection piece is really built in. We've also been able to host some learning opportunities, which have done things like support parent advocacy development, support parent well-being, and also just keep building parents' knowledge of the early childhood system. So it's really the place, right, where parent representatives can connect to the system. And also, it's this place where the system can connect to parents. And we have had instances where partners have used it as a space when they're looking for family advisement on how they can reach families or how they can incorporate family leadership. A few years back, we hosted a Grand Rounds webinar that was all about promising practices in the family leadership space. And that was for everyone, right? That was for our partners and our parents to come together and learn about some best practices. Michelle, you can go to the next. So we're building a lot of ways, right, for parents to be part of our network. And our members right now, we have a core group of members that I could not build a slide that could contain everything that these folks are doing. We know we have two here with us today that have been appointed as members of the State Advisory Council. Many are involved in their regional councils, and sometimes that means that they're regularly going to meetings and being part of that, but they also, in some instances, are planning and volunteering and participating in local family events, right? We had families and community committee members that were part of strategic plan advisory committees, part of VECF grant committees. They have also attended national conferences with us. They've joined other advisory boards, such as the Vermont Interagency Coordinating Council, the Medicaid Exchange Advisory Council, and one parent leader who has sort of taken her work forward by creating community play groups and meetups to connect families and children with autism. They're really a dynamic group, and it has been my privilege and honor to know them. I admire them all, and to see the ways that they have continued to grow their impact throughout our system it's remarkable. It's really, really remarkable. Michelle, yeah, next slide. So beyond all of those examples, right, just growing from the Families and Communities Committee, yeah, there's a lot of other ways that we've found and we've created to elevate voices in Vermont. Parent groups at this current moment, this picture here is a group of New American women who have been meeting just over a year now. And we've been supporting that group as a way to bring these women out of isolation, to help them learn about their communities, learn about raising children in Vermont. And they have also certainly been part of that advisement piece of informing the strategic plan and informing us also learning more and more about ways to create those welcoming spaces and breaking down barriers for families to be part. We're also supporting the Families of Color Advisory Committee, which was a committee that was created through Let's Grow Kids and has been advising on Act 76 legislation. With the sunsetting of Let's Grow Kids, BBF was given a grant to continue to support that group, which is now meeting quarterly, and we're getting to know them and getting to know ways to get them really well connected. Last year, we've got to give a shout out to the strategic plan process, the community conversations, all of the parents that we were able to connect with and inform our strategic plan. And the way that we're really thinking about it throughout BBF's slate of data and information sharing, right? It's Family voice was prioritized during the State of Vermont Children's webinar briefings. Family speakers have been prioritized during regional council summits. We're finding all of those ways to really lift them up. And in the past year, we have also got into a partnership with Rapid, which is out of the Sanford Center. And this was a survey project, which was an extension of our Family Needs Assessment project that the Families and Communities Committee has been leading. And so we surveyed, we reached almost 900 families last year to learn about their well-being and experiences. And we did some focus groups in person as well as the online survey offering. And we will have Rapid is producing a fact sheet related to families' experiences with material hardship that will be coming out soon. And the Families and Communities Committee is also working on some videos, a video series projects to release some of what we learned from families through that project. So a lot. It's always, right, a good problem, as we say, to have so many things to share that I could talk with you for a very, very long time. But that gives sort of a brief, but I feel like thorough overview of some of the things that we've got going on. We can pull the share down now because we do have Laura and Amber in the room. So really want to give them some time to share their experiences in being family leaders here at Building Bright Futures. So Amber, do you wanna go first? Great,
Sure.
thank you.
Right. So obviously you all know I'm Amber Houston, and Tanya has done a great job of introducing all the many, many ways that parents get involved. And I will say that through my experience, so I sort of stumbled into the Families and Communities Committee about 4 or 5 years ago when I moved back to Vermont with my family. I was raised in Vermont, but raising your own family here is a little bit of a different beast. So I felt when I moved back that I needed to kind of build my parent community and understand what opportunities there were in Vermont, and discovered the Families and Communities Committee. So over the last 4, maybe even edging into 5 years now, I've attended those monthly meetings Tanya spoke about fairly regularly. And that has allowed me to be a part of a lot of those conversations about everything from those policy strategies and how the different systems are connected, but also just the stuff that families want to talk about, like how in the world are you getting all the mud out of your children's clothes during mud season? And where did you find those rubber boots? Those kind of simple day-to-day things that actually we just need to talk about sometimes. And I've really just appreciated the other members of the group and the ability to talk about the really big stuff, but also the really little things that are important. I've also, I think Tanya listed most of them. I was adding to the list I made. I was like, oh, I've done that as well. So I've also attended regional council meetings where I have my personal role as a parent, but I also work in the early childhood space and early intervention. So have some professional connections there as well. I've been to, I think, most of the regional council summits since I've been back in Vermont, and had the opportunity to be in person with a lot of you. I have been on the State Advisory Council, obviously, for I think coming up to a couple years now. I was part of the Strategic Plan Advisory Committee, so I was a parent voice in that space, bringing things from the Families and Communities Committee, from my work with families, and just from my own experience to that process. I've got to take part in equity coaching that has really helped to frame, again, both personally and professionally, kind of how does my voice as a parent show up, and what is that? How is that in that equity space? I also have been very lucky. I traveled to Denver in December of 24 with the state team for the prenatal to 3 policy group to talk about how children and families are doing in our state. And again, was just really excited to connect with the other folks from our team, but also just be a parent voice there and say, look, that's a really big, complicated policy thing. Here's what it looks like for me on the ground as a parent of little kids. This past October, I traveled to Portland with Tanya for the Division for Early Childhood Conference. And again, that was a really powerful space to bring my parent voice, but also to hear from other parents who were really elevated and talking about, how have they been able to accomplish things or where have they run into roadblocks. So just lots of opportunities. Um, that I don't know that I would have found my way to without being a part of the Families and Communities Committee. So I'm really grateful for that. Um, and I would say the things that have helped me to be able to take part in that, I 100% own that I am very lucky to have the capacity and the privilege that I can step out of my professional role at times and travel and do all those things. And I know that that's not possible for everybody. So I really appreciate when I'm able to help take voice with me when I go. I also think the hybrid meetings or the virtual meeting opportunities are great. You all probably know I've joined sometimes from my car in the middle of wherever I am for work. I have joined a meeting from the side of a hockey rink, and I'm pretty sure I even joined a meeting when I was out of the country traveling at one point last year with my family. So just being able to show up wherever your family life takes you is really important because I can't always just carve out time, but that flexibility has been amazing. And also the ability to then listen to the recording or read the notes later if I'm not able to make it and still feel like I'm connected and give my voice to that, whatever the topic might be. I also have to give a shout out to Tanya and the whole BBF team because whenever I have a question or an issue, I know I can just email them and they will help me find the answer or direct me to the right place. And Tanya spoke about it, but having that clear person or people or group to go to and say this is really hard or I don't know about this or yay listen to this great thing that happened is really important because it's not always clear to know where to go. And I think just one other really big point I want to highlight is that I've always felt like Building Bright Futures is really great at telling me how my voice is showing up and when and how it's valued. And sometimes when they say, listen, we heard this, we're not quite sure how to put this in the policy recommendations or whatever the thing is, but we hear you and we want you to know that that's valued. And here's what we're going to do about it, even if they can't necessarily, make the thing I'm talking about happen in that moment. And that's really big. As many of you know, I show up all over the place, right? Like I am involved in a lot of things, and I don't think that is always the case that you get to know how important or how your voice is being used and heard. But this group and the Building Bright Futures group is a place where I really feel like I know, and that helps me to continue to show up and be able to use my voice. And more so to say to other parents and families, look, here's a way that you can get involved, or they're asking questions about this. Do you have anything that you want to relay or you want me to help relay? Um, and particularly through my work with families, that's a piece that I just keep coming back to. That again, I know that I am in a place of privilege that I can be really involved, and a lot of the families I work with don't always have that capacity to do that. So any way that I can either help lift them up or to help them share their voice in these different places that I can be has been really, really a growing experience for me personally and professionally. So I just am very, very grateful for that, for all of those opportunities. And I hope that lots of parents are able to take part in the way that I've been able to.
Thank you so much, Amber. That was wonderful. Hey, Laura.
Thank you. Yes, to build off what Amber just shared, I've been a part of a lot of different groups in the past in regards to sharing experiences of Vermonters, but I feel like Building Bright Futures was the first place where I started to have the opportunity to share what myself and other parents were saying and really to be able to see the results of that come out in ways that were changing for Vermont families, as opposed to just kind of feeling like you're screaming into a dark room. It was like, oh no, these people actually care and they want to use the information that you're getting from them in a way that actually makes a change. So I started with Building Bright Futures as a parent ambassador literally a month before COVID hit. We had our first meeting and we were all excited and pumped about doing this parent survey that we're going to be going to play groups and different community outreaches. We're going to be doing like paper surveys back in the days and connecting with families. And all of a sudden it was like the world just stopped. And we were like, ooh, how are we going to take this? What are we going to do with this? Life looks so different now. But I think it was such a core opportunity for us to continue to connect with families, continue to elevate family voice, and not let Vermonters get lost in the chaos of what was the pandemic then. And it really is inspiring to me to see how the things that we do can really make long-term impacts on families and how changes can actually be made, because it's been amazing, Act 76 to change daycare policies, things like that. Like that wasn't even a thought when I first started out with Building Bright Futures, that one day there would come a time where daycares would be more affordable for families. Like, wow, what a huge win. All these things that have happened that have been a success over the last few years since I've been involved have been so exciting for me. And I feel like I don't have to talk too long or share too much, because I feel like I don't need to say to this group that keeping parent experience is central to conversations, because you guys have already been champions of these work for so long, and all of you are so impassioned to keep parents central. It's so inspiring to me. And I think you all know that it's different to have conversations about someone's life and then to have a conversation with someone about someone's life. There's a big difference with those things. And I think you guys get that. And I just really appreciate everyone in this group, all your little boxes and all your little faces, because you get it. You understand how important that is to really understand Vermont's families and what they're going through. And in summary, I just wanted to close by an experience that I had at the Early Childhood Advocacy Day. That was a wonderful experience. And the room is packed with all these different legislators meeting with all the people around their little tables. And I had this moment that was really impactful for me and for, I hope, my daughters too, where one of the legislators walked by and he stopped and he smiled and waved at my daughters who were present with me. They're 2 and 8 and I homeschool, so I brought them with me because that's just what I have to do. And he stopped and he smiled and waved and he said, "Oh, you brought your leverage with you." And I was like, yes, I did bring my leverage with me, because that's what's important, is that you remember that this is who you're making those changes for. These faces are the ones who are on the line when you're talking about cutting important services for children. These are the faces that are on the line when you're talking about increasing services for children in the state. So I think it is important to still have faces and names and presence. And more Vermont families need to realize that their children's faces matter too, and that their voices matter too. And the more that we can do that, and the more connected we will be. And connectivity is so important to mental health, as we all know, and all of those things. So I just wanted to leave you with that story to close. And thank you all for sharing the passion and heart that we all have.
Thank you so much, Laura. Wonderful. Both Amber and Laura, both remarkable. And as Laura, thank you to all of you. I totally agree. Thank you for having this space and for also having the passion and the vision that's helping us all, right? Improve the lives of children and families. So thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any reflections or questions for either Laura, Amber, or myself?
All right. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Laura and Amber. I'm sitting here after, doing the reflections on our two members that are leaving and hearing from our parent leaders about the impact. I hope what the rest of the board heard is the why. This is why we're doing this work. This is the importance and the value of why we all come together. And I think, as we transition into talking about our role, our responsibility as a state advisory council, I think what I'm reflecting on right now is that this isn't what it looks like in every other state. Right? Like this group of partners across all of these different sectors make the commitment and the time to come together and say, this is what's best for kids and families in a different way. And I'm really proud of that. The fact that, we were created in, just outside of state government and outside of these branches of government is in some ways why we're able to do this work in a different way than other states, right? It's not just the governor and the administration's team. It's not just legislative leadership. It's actually bringing all of us together with this collective expertise and lived experience to help hold the vision and strategy for kids and families in the state. And in meetings like today, that feels more powerful. It feels more meaningful, because not everybody can do this and does it in this way. So just hoping that you're all feeling um, that collective impact in a different way. It's pretty special and unique, I would say. So we're going to transition to talking in the last little bit around the role of the board, advisement, and our statute, the role of the State Advisory Council. And we're going to do it slightly differently. Yes, I'll give you some of that language so that you can all give the elevator pitch, but really want you to all understand and be thinking about how the work actually happens and what it means to hold the vision and strategy and move it forward for kids and families. So we can bring the slide share back up and just briefly talk for a couple minutes about Title 33, Chapter 46. So again, for those of you who are just joining the board, we are named in state and then federal statute as the primary advisor to the governor, the legislature, and the federal delegation on kids and families prenatal to age 8 and the early childhood system. And what that entails is all moving towards advisement, right? Our job is to convene, to bring partners together, to bring families together, to hear and be able to elevate voice and lived experience so that our advisement actually reflects what's happening on the ground. We're also responsible for monitoring the system. And it's not just the numbers that we have, but it's, again, this collective monitoring. How do we know that we're moving towards that vision and strategy for kids and families? And, how are we looking at lived experience plus data plus national best practice to understand how we're moving and where we're making progress and where we're really stuck? And then, using all of our collective responsibility, all of our collective knowledge and data to advise. And I think what's really important for this group to know is, and as you just heard from our parent leaders, advisement takes place in so many different contexts. Sometimes it's nationally and going to conferences, and we are actually meeting with the federal delegation, or we're elevating Vermont's experience and trying to help others navigate where we are already leading the country. Sometimes it's holding the line and holding ground to say, here's what's working really well in our system, and here are the things that we need to tackle because they aren't working and we need to problem solve. It might also be the area where we actually need to make progress and move forward because we're behind and we're seeing this massive gap that needs a response. So just naming for you all that we do have Title 33, Chapter 46 as that grounding. And I'm so proud of the work of this board over the last 10 years in really bringing meaning to that advisory role in a different way. You can go to the next slide, folks. So Beth mentioned earlier that we were going to have a new slide with the current board makeup, but again, I think one of the things that I want to call attention to here is, we do have 23 governor appointed voting seats. And what we recognize is that we need to ensure that we have voice from all of the agencies, departments, and divisions. We need to have voice from folks who are from all parts of the community. And so we do have our required public voting seats. And so the current slate of folks is on the left-hand side, on the top left, under our public members across every agency, department, and division responsible for supporting children and families. And we also have invited members in a non-voting space to make sure that we are hearing from other entities who are supporting kids and families, like the Department for Children and Families, specifically Family Services and Economic Services, but also to have that direct line with the governor's office to support and elevate and be able to make sure that they are understanding what is coming, what families are struggling with, where there's policy tensions, and what that looks like. We are so lucky to have strong representatives from both the House and the Senate in the legislature. So thank you to both Martine and Ray. It's been phenomenal to have actively engaged leadership in both the Senate and the House so that we can actually be bringing things, not just through formal testimony, but through partnership and making those connections for legislative leaders. And then across our what we're calling at-large members, We have membership across every, or as many as we possibly can, different sectors of individuals who are supporting young kids and families in a range of ways, whether it's through businesses, whether it's through advocacy, through being a parent, through, education or Head Start. So really trying to have a board with a makeup that allows us to understand the needs of kids and families at all times. And when we think about bringing you all into this space, the way that we think about this is leveraging your expertise and your networks to bring all of that information, all of your knowledge, all of that voice into the space to make sure that it's reflected, whether it's in the vision, the strategy, the policy recommendations, or the discussions that we're having at the board level, but also at our network levels. It's equally as important that you're able to take what you hear across sectors and then bring it back into those spaces. So how are we using all of this collective knowledge and expertise to then educate our colleagues, educate our different departments and divisions, help bring that back to partners? Because one of the things that we just heard from Laura and Amber is, we are investing so much in ensuring that voices are heard. And how do we know that there's action being taken on behalf of? And so, how do we all collectively bring that back into our respective sectors to help folks know what's going on in early childhood as it relates to our specific policy priorities? Next slide, please. This is our current visual that represents the network. It is here. We're actually in the process of updating this visual, but what we wanted folks to know, especially if you have not been a part of this network, is that it is not just the board. It's not just this 23 governor appointed council. It is really on behalf of this entire robust network of over 500 partners that's coming together to do this work well. So we have 12 regional councils across the state. And those are the people on the ground doing this work within communities with kids and families who are sharing their own expertise and coming together to problem solve and elevate all of the tensions and challenges on behalf of kids and families. We also have a range of strategic plan committees, and we'll talk a little bit about the strategic plan in a couple of minutes, that are really in the space to be troubleshooting at that statewide level some of the tensions and challenges and really monitoring progress to determine how we move that body forward. We just talked about the State Advisory Council, and then a subset of that State Advisory Council is what we call the Interagency Coordinating Team, or ECICT. And that is a makeup of all of the agency leaders and departments and divisions who are ultimately responsible for taking everything that happens at the board level and across this network and thinking critically about how to move that work forward and really thinking about the collaboration across different agencies, departments, and divisions to break down silos and create change. So just wanting you to know that the work of the board is so much bigger than just the board, and it reflects kids and families in this broad statewide system that is ultimately coming together to hold the vision and strategy for kids and families. Next slide, please. I am so excited to physically be holding the strategic plan poster, but also the strategic plan. For those of you, I can't see anybody in this moment, but for those of you who want to physically hold a copy, let us know. I like to have mine at all times. But we, when I think about the purpose and the value and the importance of collective impact and this board in particular, it is to be able to hold the vision and strategic plan for kids and families through different transitions. So we have a governor that is appointed every 2 years. We have agency leaders that experience transitions. We have legislative leaders that experience transitions. And a part of the role of this body is to be able to hold on to that 5-year vision and strategy and be able to, essentially withstand leadership transitions at any point in time, so that at all times we are coming back to what we've set as that 5-year vision and strategic plan. So we're so thrilled. And again, for those of you who are just joining us on the board in this moment in time, we've just published that next 5-year strategic plan. And so you're seeing that camel's hump visual with the mountains, and really, really excited about what we're moving towards for kids and families, and that this strategic plan isn't just the inspirational vision that we have or this kind of longstanding thing that we want to work towards, but it also holds our values and holds the line and puts in writing what we feel is really important to protect and defend at this moment in time on behalf of kids and families. Next slide, please. The section that we want to call your attention to this afternoon is in Goal 5, which is our system centers families. And you just heard this incredible presentation on the way that we as a board, as a network, are really centering family voice, but also how we're seeing that as a critical part of this coordinated, well-resourced, and data-driven system. And so you're seeing some of the strategies and some of the things listed here around how we want to do that. And I'm actually going to pull us to the next slide if it's on this one. Thank you. The one that I really want folks to see is one of the areas where we've called out how we would like to see our board and our specifically the State Advisory Council think about supporting the system. And so again, when we think about this coordinated integrated system, specifically on page 40, for those of you who are holding this document with me, Objective 5D is sustain and strategically align early childhood leadership and resources. And the two areas in that are around how we utilize the State Advisory Council, but also focus on maximizing and sustaining investments to think about long-term sustainable strategies for kids and families. And what's in this body of work is really the role, from our perspective, the role of this board. So how do we make sure that we have folks across all sectors well represented, consistently engaged, and showing up as leaders on behalf of the system? And if you're hearing my 3-year-old black lab right now, I apologize. And that we are providing as many opportunities to bring partners together to strengthen how we share information, how we build strong relationships, how we think about collaboration and the coordination of projects and funding on behalf of kids and families. And then in terms of the strategic plan itself, our responsibility as a board is to use that document and not let it just be this thing that we dust off and have on the shelf, but to really look at it and say, okay, what is our role in each of these areas? How do we move this work forward together? What are the policy priorities, and how do we both individually as leaders in the system and as a network and a board make progress in each of these areas? So really my invitation to you all is to be thinking about how do we use this strategic plan to be part of our visioning with our teams, to be thinking about how we're allocating resources and decision-making across the system. You also heard, again, the family voice and centering families and children in all policy decisions and leadership. And I think that one of the things that we've been working on as that ECICT, the interagency coordinating team, is how do we strengthen the communication and the coordination behind the scenes to really show up and prioritize what we are needing on behalf of kids and families and the system. So I'm going to pull down the screen share for a couple minutes for these last 10, because I think it's important for the board to have some time to reflect on this. Those of you who are on the interagency coordinating team have had some of this discussion to think about, how are we using the strategic plan? How are we sitting in this role, and what are the opportunities that we see to do this work really well? And Beth is going to facilitate discussion in pairs, but just wanting to before we transition out of this, hear if there are any reflections or questions about the role of this board, the role, the responsibilities, the opportunities. Okay, we'll have Beth transition us into, oh, go ahead, Flora, sorry.
But since I'm leaving and nobody's speaking, I can just say that, after, listening to the whole presentation, and something that I really believe on is that what the strategic plan is, the coherence that it brings to everything. And I know that strategic plan has a lot of pieces and we struggle with that part, but the coherence that we all bring by working together towards, we don't always are going to get what we all want, but we are all continue to remind us that we're all interconnected, and at the end of the day we're all trying to move forward for children and families. So if we all can bring that strategic, stay on, bring those values and continue to bring coherence to the system by staying grounded on that strategic plan. I wish you the best and good work. It was a good presentation.
Thank you, Flor. Any others before we transition into some small groups?
So I'm going to propose that we do the small groups, but we are not going to have time for debrief when we come back in. But I think it would be really great for folks to be able to connect. And if you have thoughts about the role of the SAC and how you show up individually, would love to hear, feel free to email me and I will kind of collect those reflections. But I'm going to open rooms for those who are able to stay on for the next 10 minutes. And then we will bring you back just before 3 to close the meeting. How's that sound? Okay. So if for some reason there's no one in your room, come on back and I'll get you where you need to go.
And I just posted the questions in the chat in addition to what I said out loud for folks. So we'll see you in a little bit.
If you have any thoughts, would love send me a message so we can capture those and incorporate them into kind of future meetings. And just a short reminder that there's no SAC meeting in April. However, we do have a in-person strategic plan summit meeting in May. So that's our next meeting is May 18th. So I hope folks have a really great afternoon and it was good to see you. Take care.
Thank you all.
See you,
Happy
folks.
last meeting, Flor and Christy.